G'day, how the hell are we? This might come across as a shock to anyone who's seen my previous videos before. This is the first time that I'm actually showing my face on camera. Not to mention the editing too. This is actually the first video that I put a shitload of effort into. I've been working on this motherfucker for months. So you're going to see things like tattoos appearing and disappearing, piercings appearing and disappearing. Fun fact, I'm actually recording this part, like the intro. This is last. I'm actually recording this on a different distro than the one that I initially was using throughout most of this video. There's a long story behind that. Probably save that for a part 2. So editing, right? I don't know if you're like me, where you tend to watch a fair bit of YouTube. My attention span has been shot because of it. Jump cuts. Everyone loves jump cuts. The thing with jump cutting though is that there are side effects. Obviously, I've talked about it negatively impacts your attention span, but a little known side effect is actually teleportation and time travel. It's something that apparently most YouTubers have a pretty good grasp on to do it in moderation, but I'm new to this. The only thing I do know is that if you jump cut too many times, you end up in different places. Hold on a second, where the fuck am I? So it's like I said earlier, my first time on camera, but I'm not doing this for no particular reason whatsoever. It's definitely on the longer side. If you look down at the video length, that's a pretty good indicator that there's something going on here. I'm not someone to beat around the bush.
Hey Sammy, there's a bush over there.
What? You son of a bitch is fucking following me. Fucking dickhead. I don't beat around the bush, I'll fucking beat the shit out of the bush.
How about I just come on out and say it? I would assume you're literate, otherwise you wouldn't have clicked on this video. Unless maybe you are, man, in which case I don't judge, but... Well, why is that? People might ask me, why is that? Alongside other questions such as, hey Sammy, why do you look like such a jack-off? In which case it's like, well, I don't know, man. Cry about it. It's one of those things. You see, it's more like something extravagant or momentous. Ooh, yeah, big words, man. There's a very special occasion behind this, which I guess is why I felt it necessary to bless YouTube with my face. If you're even half literate, you already know the reason, but I'm just gonna put it out right now. Drum roll, please. Where the fuck is that coming from? The hell is that? Alright, here we go. I use Linux. I imagine it's grand enough for you to click on this video, right? That's already a starter. Hey, welcome, enjoy your stay, motherfucker! And I could already imagine some of the questions being thrown my way. If I ignore the ones that are about my general appearance and demeanor, we get to the kind of more pressing ones, such as, for example, how's Linux, man? And to tell you the truth, give me 1 second here. God damn, that's good shit, huh? Oh, I thought you were asking about the drink. Alright, hang on, let me put this down then. Linux. Alright, so what do I think? God damn, that's good shit. That second one was actually about Linux, by the way. It's just that both the drink and Linux is good shit. Yeah, what can I say, man? I love the taste of mummy in my mouth. God damn, that's good shit. So I've been daily driving Linux for a little over a year now as of recording this segment. To tell you the truth, I was originally intending on releasing this video on the exact 1 year anniversary, but well...
How do you get up from this?
Now, I'm not here to be some sort of shady salesman. I'm not here to necessarily convince you to use Linux. I imagine if you're clicking on this, maybe there's a small bit of curiosity, right? That's perfectly valid. Maybe you're someone who wants to be a bit of a techno hipster, or maybe you're someone who, like I was at a certain point, just had enough of Microsoft's bullshit when it comes to the bullshit that they were doing on Windows. Keep in mind, Windows 10 was the last one that I used, right? Windows 10 was bad enough for me to ditch it in favor of Linux. I can't even imagine what Windows 11 is like. I've never used Windows 11. I've heard nothing but awful things about it. Like the fact that I was so fed up with Windows 10, fuck man, imagine if I was using 11. Oh my god, you'd probably never hear the end of it. To tell you the truth, using Linux has actually been extremely drama free for the most part. Whenever a problem would come my way, it was nothing that I couldn't solve relatively quickly. And I've been using it for a little over a year now. You know, it's been really good so far, so touch wood. Hopefully that remains the case. That was actually the wood between my legs, by the way. Not a wooden table. So I'm someone who grew up with Windows as far back as I can remember. You know, the first version of Windows I remember using might have been 95 or 98. Really showing my age there, but regardless, yeah, 95, 98. was roughly the first one I used. And apart from playing like the very occasional, I don't know, Monster Truck Rally and stuff like that. And on XP later on, I played like the, you know, that retro pinball game. You know the one. We all know it. Bloody good game. Bloody good game, that is. I also remember playing 1999 Space Invaders. You know, that was a banger of a game too. Fuck them aliens. What have they done for us? Windows XP often comes up in the conversation as, you know, peak Windows, right? For me, XP was alright, but I really wasn't a fan of that, like, Fisher-Price interface, you know what I mean? And it was like, it didn't look good in 2001, sure as hell doesn't look good now. When I was a kid growing up, we had dial-up. I wasn't someone who used a computer that often. Whenever I wanted to use the internet, it would take like 10 minutes plus to like load the Google homepage. It was unusable. That was why back then, just played outside. It wasn't until Windows 7 came out where I began using computers a lot because we got broadband internet, which made browsing the internet, you know, not take 26 years plus. And maybe this is the rose-tinted nostalgia goggles talking here, but I feel like 7, if I was to go back to it, I would love it just as much as I did back then. I absolutely adored 7. 7 was just an operating system that did what you wanted it to do. It stayed out of your way, it looked nice enough, and it was stable. It was incredible for its time. Probably still is, considering how far down Windows has regressed since then, if you ask me. You know, I use 7 for as long as I can. I remember when I got my first desktop computer in 2015, I elected to install Windows 7 on it. All of my mates were giving me shit. They were calling me a psycho, going like, what the hell are you thinking? Why are you installing 7 on it, man? Just use 10, man. 10's alright. I'm so glad that I stuck with 7 on that computer. I had a hell of a time. By the time 2019 came around, that computer started slowing down a bit. I needed to upgrade. And on the computer that I got in 2019, the original plan was to install Windows 7 on that again. But I kind of ran into an issue where, like, when you go to install 7 for the first time, right before you install it, it apparently only recognizes USB 2.0 ports. So even though I had a mouse and keyboard plugged in, I only had 3.0 ports on it. So I kind of just ran into this roadblock where I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm just going to use 10 and see if I hate it. You know what I thought?
I think Coolsville sucks.
Windows 10, I imagine, is the same for you as it was for me, where when you first get it, it's awful. Automatic updates, all these unwanted programs, you know, installed on your operating system, telemetry data collection, all of that. It's hell. With 10, it's like, you can make it behave. You can disable the automatic updates. You can deep load it. You can do this and that, etc. and make it usable. Not necessarily good, but usable at the very least, and that's good enough for most of us. It still didn't change the fact that I got used to 10's mediocrity. When you finish up fixing it, it's more like making it less bad. By the time the year 2025 came around, I kinda felt the need to upgrade yet again, like get a new PC. I heard all sorts of horror stories about Windows 11, where they brick your computer and the data collecting has gone up to the extreme, because I'm someone who absolutely hates these billion-dollar plus corporations collecting people's data and selling it to the highest bidder, because it's like, brother, you could have just asked me. I probably would have sold my data for you for $1 million, you know? You could have just asked me.
Yeah, why stealing it from us for free?
Which I understand the irony of that statement, because I'm someone who uses YouTube, Discord, Facebook occasionally. Yes, I am old, I'm fully aware. So because of all that, I decided Windows 11 was just like out of the equation. I wanted nothing to do with that. And Windows 10 was like, it kind of serviced me. It did its job for the most part. It was painful, but allow me to browse the internet, you know, do all this computer stuff, man, you know, be Mr. Keyboard Warrior. Even then, I was like, well, Windows 10 is kinda, it's gonna get phased out eventually. It was a very real, upcoming pickle that we were all in at this point. You know, I was like, look, I can't use 10 forever. Sure as hell can't use 7. You know, most games don't support 7 anymore. And I refuse to use 11, so what's the deal? Like, tell me, what's a motherfucker to do with this situation? Around about this point, I had a laptop that I would use to watch movies and YouTube and stuff like that. And I had Windows 10 installed on it. Now, I don't know if it was the CPU that was fried on it, or maybe because Windows 10 is, like, even worse than we give it credit for. It eventually lagged the hell out of that laptop, where, like, it would lag so bad that even when you try to move the mouse wouldn't even respond. The laptop would just fully freeze for a good 30 to 40 seconds. It was completely unusable. I tried uninstalling as many programs as I could from it. It didn't work. As crackpot as that might be, I even tried lowering the resolution. It didn't work. And by this point, I was kind of out of options. I was like, shit, man, am I going to need a new laptop? There's got to be a way out of here, right? That was when I rediscovered Linux, because sometimes I like to go diving on random subjects on Wikipedia, you know, countries, cultures, all sorts of things, right? You just get interested in something, you do a little research on it because you find it fascinating. Yeah, reading Wikipedia articles on socks at 3 in the morning, gang, rise up. By this point, I'd rediscovered Linux after hearing about it for several years, and for the longest time, I kind of associated it with neckbeards, where I was like, I never want to get something like that, where you have to type stuff in a terminal, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, by this point, I was about to tear the hair out of my goddamn head, right? That was when I kind of figured to myself, why not look for the most user-friendly Linux distro and then give that a go? I had nothing installed on that laptop, so I had nothing to lose. So I did it. I went with, you know, look, I know some of your Linux purists are going to give me shit for this, but I went with Ubuntu, or Ubuntu? I don't know how you pronounce it, but that's kind of known as like the most widely supported user-friendly distro. And yes, it is owned by a corporation, but I remember installing it on that laptop and it was amazing. It breathed completely new life into it. You know, I was able to just watch videos all of a sudden. It'll just do it. It wouldn't lag, it wouldn't freeze, it wouldn't completely shut down and, you know, force me to restart the laptop. It just did the thing that I wanted it to do. Like, imagine that, right? Why am I talking like this? And that kind of opened my eyes to the whole thing, where Linux really isn't as bad as people might tell you. It can be a pleasant experience. Soon after this, I ended up using one of my old desktop computers as a server to run a Minecraft server on Jellyfin as well. I went with Debian. Debian is kind of like intermediate difficulty, I'd say. It's not quite as user-friendly as Ubuntu is. For the first 2 or 3 days, using Debian was hell, because most of the tutorials you find for Debian are like, oh, just type this into the terminal, man. You know, it probably won't break your computer, you know, have about a 75% chance. And it's like, I really don't like those odds, you know. But regardless, you know, Debian I got used to after a few days. It kind of kept up that momentum where I was like, Linux is actually really good. I wonder if you can use it to play games. Which, sure enough, I googled it, and way back when, in the 2000s, it was almost impossible to get a video game working on it. Whereas nowadays, thanks to Valve and Proton, you can play like over 90% of Windows games. Like, that's not an exaggeration. That's not a number I pulled out of my ass. It's literally, you can play like 90+% of Windows games on a Linux PC. And the crazy thing about it, right? This is the craziest part. A lot of the time, it actually performs faster on Linux compared to Windows, because Windows has so many programs running in the background that you just cannot disable, that it ends up putting a cap on your performance. Whereas with Linux, even though it uses like I think they call it a translation layer or something like that, which kind of adds a bit of lag, sure, but you end up with less lag than Windows, only because Windows is doing all this stuff behind your back. Whereas on Linux, you can actually check its equivalent of the task manager. You know, it's called System Monitor on mine, where it doesn't hide any information from you. You can see everything. It tells you what is uploading information to the internet or whatever. You can see what's downloading information from the internet. It's fully straight up honest with you. And I'm kind of at the point now where I'm someone who, there was a couple things that I wasn't willing to leave behind, you know, switching over to Linux. So kernel level anti-cheat is kind of the big one. So if you play games like Fortnite, League of Legends, GTA Online, PUBG, I used to love PUBG back in the day. PUBG was a good game. All of these games do not work on Linux, and that's not a Linux issue, it's actually on the developers, because Linux doesn't allow stuff in its kernel, because that's kind of like a major security risk, if you can believe that, whereas Windows does, and you kind of don't want stuff in your kernel, because that theoretically allows hackers to kind of get unlimited access to the deepest layers of your computer, and that's like, you know, that's kind of like a big no-no. You really don't want that. But like I said, I'm someone who plays a lot of GTA Online. GTA Online is a sick game. If you ask me, I have a lot of fun playing it. And that's the one game I wasn't willing to leave behind. I used to play a lot of Destiny 2. You know, I stopped playing that before I even ended up getting a Linux PC, so that wasn't a problem for me. But GTA was one where I play GTA often enough where I could not justify ditching it fully. So I ended up doing research. I ended up looking into tons of different Linux distros. The original plan, one distro caught my eye, which was Linux Mint Debian Edition, LNDE. And I was going to go with that for my next, now current PC. But when I was trying it on a virtual machine on my last computer, maybe it's like a virtual machine related problem, but I had a habit of misbehaving, like crashing and stuff like that. So very last second, I found out about something called Nibiru Linux, and I decided, why not, man? Why not? I went with Nibiru Linux, and I have had that installed ever since. If you've been paying enough attention, you might notice a slight conflict. I thought you said you were going to leave Windows, but you're using Linux, but then you weren't willing to leave Windows for GTA? What's the deal, man? What's the deal? Can you explain it to us? Want an explanation? You fucking want one? So I actually dual boot, which for those of you who don't know what that is, dual booting is having both Windows and Linux installed on your PC, because you can have both. You can have both running on your PC.
I'm playing both sides so that I always come out on top.
Okay, a couple things right off the bat there, pal.
I mean, you can probably have those two and Mac OS as well, which, like, why? What the hell are you doing? Maybe you have a 4th spot saved up for bloody Terry Davis's old Temple OS, who knows? At which point I'll be like, man, you got problems. What's your deal, numbnuts? Now, you might be wondering how games on Linux actually perform to make the game actually function, to make it launch and not set your computer on fire. If you run a game through Steam, it will just work. So why not just show you a demonstration real quick. Let's get Elden Ring running. So as you can see, this is the Elden Ring we all know and love. Let's go ahead and get our rings Elden, shall we? To tell you the truth, every game that is supposedly doesn't have a Linux release, it doesn't matter. Because Windows games run through Proton, which is an inbuilt Steam thing. You know, thingamajig, right? Elden Ring is one of those games, yeah, where I swear it actually performs better on Linux compared to Windows. And a lot of the time that's actually because Windows, with all their tracking, telemetry bullshit, and the apps that you can't kill that are required to run 24/7 in the background, they provide a lot of overhead, it's called. So on Linux, well, unless you get a shitty distro, that is. On Linux, the distros will not be spying on you. They will not be doing anything of the like. There are no mandatory installs. You can actually uninstall the bootloader if you wanted to, if you're psychotic enough. But as you can tell, this is a game that kind of works, and Scarlet Rot still works better than it ever has. I just figured, what better way to display my lack of proficiency and skills than parrying this fella? Mr... Does he even have a name? Yeah, mate, trying to start something. Come on, I'm gonna parry... Oh, can I even parry that? Hit me with the bolts. Yeah, fucking get out of here. Think you're more Australian than me, do ya? Get the fuck out of here. Word on the street is, apparently one game isn't enough, so how about I do some more? How about Warhammer 40,000 Darktide or whatever? This is a real mouthful of a title. That's why I prefer this one. Alright, here we are, Warhammer 40k. And here comes Frankie. Hey buddy, you got a lighter? No? What about you over there? Boy, don't ignore me, you fucking mole. You got a lighter? Let's see, Southern Cross, Flinders. I remember being on Flinders Steps when I was an emo kid. We spray kid, you got a lighter? You gotta do the dance. You gotta do the dance. It's rule number 1 of this game.
Now arriving at Frankston.
Ah, fucking hate this line. So I'm gonna tell you the ballad of one of my mates. So he's someone who plays this game as well. He's actually the one who introduced me to this, and he originally played this on Windows, and apparently it performed like absolute dog shit. So one day he had enough of Windows, and this was soon after I started using Nibiru Linux. He ended up doing the same thing. Of course, he chose GNOME as his desktop environment, which means, you know, fuck that guy, I hope he dies. But regardless, he said this game performs a whole lot better on Linux compared to Windows. I never played this on Windows, so I can't vouch for him on that. These are his words, not mine. In fact, if I was to quote any more of his words, I'd have the, oh, fucking this, fucking that, oh, I fucked your mum, man. You know, that's kind of that's kind of what he talks like. Get out of here. I don't have time for you. I don't have time for any of this. Oh, watch out for Big Bubba. He's on the hunt. Where the fuck is he going? Yeah, he's Jack's problem. No, he's not. He's Clarence's problem? Yep. Let's see you fucking potato-headed drugger. Come on, mate. Wait, listen, if none of you are doing heroin with me, I'm just gonna assume you're doing heroin against me. Have Granada. Eat Granada. Oh, fuck a dog. No, I don't know the directions to the nearest Hungry Jack's. Let me alone. Give us that. I found some heroin. Fuck yeah. I tell you what, Frankston's actually a little nicer than I remember. That's a Serenity. Oi, Kaji. Come here. Here an oven. Yeah, fuck off. You as well, fuck off. If it was possible for me to stab you at a distance, I would. Commando, anyone? Commando from COD. Ooh, that's embarrassing. You want to poke that head out again? There you go, made things right. Boy, Jack, you fucking drongo. Come down here. Jackie. Ah, it's lovely to be outside. See, this is the Frankston Beach. There's sand on the ground, clearly. Still looks a little nice to be Franger. Gentrification, it comes for us all eventually. I imagine this is a lot like driving a Beamer into Logan or something like that. You just have all these guys swamp you. Like, oi, nice car, man. It's a Beamer, right? 3 Series, yeah, I love those. Oi, how about you give us a test drive? Oh, no. That guy is just minding his own business. That's why, take my advice. Whenever you catch a train or the bus, you have to be the noisiest, most inconsiderate motherfucker on there. That's how you survive. Everyone ignores you when you are the noisiest, most obnoxious type. Start just decking random people. You know, seeing the elderly couple sitting across the train from you, just... Ah, fuck me, I didn't mean to press that. I guess that's what I get for mentioning geriatricide, right? Is that even the correct term for that? Where are we now? It's hard to tell considering we're underground, but I think we've run a fair bit to the east by now. We're probably in Narnagoon or some shit. Destination Morwell. Ah, fucking, I do not miss Morwell. One bit. Medicare. This truly is an Australian simulator. Yeah, I really don't know how swear words on YouTube work. I'm obviously not chasing monetization. You know, I'm just putting this out for the love of the game, you know? And because Linux is kind of a hot topic right now, I need to provide the people with what they want. I need to hear Windows sucks, man, or a lot of ya. Have you considered switching to open source free software? Any of ya? Do you know what that is? Excuse me, sir, do you know what FOSS stands for? Hey, Cuzzy, have you heard the good news of our Lord and Saviour Linus Torvalds? He's a good dude. There you go, that's what it's like to catch the Melbourne Metro, in a nutshell. Bonnie dude. Looking for a funny name, Amelia Gibbets? The fuck is a Gibbets? Oh yeah, the big dude. The big dudes always have the best name. So Minecraft isn't a game that you have to launch through Steam on Linux. It actually has a direct Linux port that you just download from the Minecraft website and install, you know, normally. But I've been pushed into having a lot of my games just launched through Steam anyway. It's part of Valve's secret plan. Really fuck us all over. Eventually. Promise. Here I am in the Nether, or as it's called in my resource pack, the Jimmy Barnes realm. Trust me, you do not want to figure out why it is called that, but as you can tell, it's just a good old-fashioned game of Minecraft here. So there's absolutely nothing different about this game. It's only a slight variation of the textures, that's about it, really. It doesn't get much more different than that. I mean, you can tell it's Minecraft, can't you? Oh, it's Howard. Where are you going? That sounds so stupid. What in the fuck is it? Spoon! Ah, boy. I'm not saying it again. It's Vinny's thing, alright? I'm not stealing it from him. Right date! You know, all these guys have to do is mind their own business, not pick fights with these guys, but they just can't help themselves. They keep starting shit. Coming down here was a mistake, so let's head back to the normal world. Ooh! These guys seem a little noisier than I remember. Can't even hear myself think. Tell you what, coming here was a mistake too. I'm so disappointed in you. Free loot. Oh no, don't come in. There you go, he's smarter than you gotta give him credit for. Yeah, so even though this is my transport hub more than anything else, kind of doubles as a gold farm too, doesn't it? It's like walking through a forest and hearing birds chirping, but instead you get... No, as you can tell, pretty much no difference. You just launch a game, it works, you have yourself a good time, or get your ass kicked, you know, pick your poison either right. Who the fuck's calling me? That's essentially how it is. It's that simple. Like, god damn it, stop calling me. You just play the game, you have yourself a good time, you rage quit the game when you're done, you do whatever the fuck else it is that you do, and it's just I don't think you can hear it, but I keep getting called. That's it. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 goddamn second. Yeah, hey, you keep calling me like earlier. What was that about? You just wanted to call me. It's that simple. Yeah, well, look, I was trying to record a video, and I kept getting called over and over. I had to keep redoing takes and shit like that. I was like, God damn it. So, I tell you what, this is no longer a Linux-related video anymore. This is now a call-out. Alright, this is a call-out Sky video. Hey, Sky, fuck you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, that's it. You're not even going to fight back. You're just going to take it. So if you have a game in your library that you want to play, but you don't know for a fact whether it works on Linux or not, what you can do is go onto the store page of said game and check over here where it says Steam Deck compatibility. Verified means it just 100% works because Steam Deck uses a version of Linux, which means it'll work perfectly fine on whatever distro you use. You know, there's other ratings too, like playable. Playable usually means it's all good, you're good to go. Unknown usually means you can use another website called ProtonDB. I will show you that in a bit. And you can double check the game's rankings there, where that's kind of like a community-based ranking. Whereas over here on the Steam store page, it's actually doing it themselves. So you can use Proton. In most cases, using Steam is perfectly fine. But yeah, definitely keep that in mind. If you ever find yourself not too certain on whether a game works, like sometimes on the Steam store, if you look at a game, it'll have no information. So if that's the case, go to this website called ProtonDB. Look up a game real quick. Let's just go explore. Now you can search for your game, or you can just scroll through here. But all of these games, right, are functioning. The only ones you got to worry about are the ones with the balked rating. Balked means it's just...
Dad, some guy's selling an overhead projector.
Nah. Now hang on, Steve. What's he asking?
150.
Tell him he's dreaming.
It'll either not work at all, or in some cases, Destiny 2 is an extreme example, where if you launch the game on Linux, they actually ban you. Like as in Bungie will ban you from the game. But all these other ratings, so native means there's a native Linux port, gold means it runs perfectly. After tweaks, not always the case, it'll usually run just fine. Bronze usually means there might be 1 or 2 settings you have to change, but that's simple. You just go to the game settings in your Steam, change the Proton version that you're running. It's usually a really simple fix. No effort required at all. If you feel like you need additional context on a certain game within Proton, you can click on it and it will take you to all these players' reports. All of you say hello to YouTube. Yeah, you know, they all give their reception. This guy claims it doesn't run. I think it's a skill issue. Considering everyone else seems to not really have a problem. And tell you what, you can actually add your own reports too. God damn, that's good shit. So this is the part where I talk about specifically the parts of Linux that I actually do enjoy. What's going on with me today? I look like a Lord of the Rings character or something like that. Mr. Frodo! Mr. Frodo! One does not simply switch to Linux. So when it comes to Linux, do you remember what I said earlier concerning my experiences with using Windows 7 in the past? God damn, that's good shit. No, I'm not talking about that one. Can I stop trying to make that a thing, please? It's not funny, alright? It's forcing it down people's throat isn't going to make it funny. I'm talking about this one.
An operating system that did what you wanted it to do. It stayed out of your way, it looked nice enough, and it was stable. Tell me, how was my action? How did I do?
So all of that actually applies in this case. All of the good things about Windows 7 are actually present on Linux. Make no mistake, I am going to try to avoid being biased in any way. That's kind of what the point of this video is to begin with. Windows 10 for me was stable. I probably experienced a blue screen of death maybe 2 times, maybe 3 in the roughly 6 years that I was using it. 6 years, Marty! 6 years! But, you know, stability-wise, Nabara has never crashed on me. It's never done whatever the hell a Linux equivalent of a blue screen of death is. I think they call it kernel panic or something like that. I've never seen that. It hasn't happened yet. I've been using it for... I'm literally days away from a year now. I just ranted for like 2 minutes and I didn't have the microphone switched on. You know, it really shows how often I do this, right? Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted by my own incompetence, things that I do like on Linux. I've already sort of covered stability. Compared to Windows, it does seem a lot more stable. The general consensus online by Linux users, which is, you know, kind of a biased source of information, but regardless, people for the most part often say Linux is more stable than Windows.
Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
I really have to control whenever I start talking at length about a particular subject. I'm trying to talk about things that I like, and I just ran. I'm terrible at this. I'm truly sorry. I've talked about stability, cutting that off right now. Customizability is actually superior compared to Windows, and that's actually because of one simple reason: desktop environments. By the way, do you like how much darker it is in here? Ooh, because of time traveling. For those of you who don't know what a desktop environment is, look at it like this. Every version of Windows looks slightly different, right? You compare Windows 10 to Windows 7 to Windows 11 to XP, they all have vastly different looks. If you look at those as not necessarily being updated versions of Windows, but different desktop environments, that's kind of one way to look at it. Desktop environments bring in how your system will look. Unless if you want to be one of those, you know, terminal psychos. A desktop environment lets you choose how your Linux will look because there's multiple options. The most popular two options include GNOME, and I know people are going to say, oh, actually it's GNOME. I don't give a fuck, man. It's spelt gnome. Gnome is a not real animal that you call gnome, right? The G is silent. I'm ranting again. You see that? You gotta get better at this, man. You gotta get better. GNOME is extremely popular because it is simple, it is clean, it's kind of straightforward. It is rather different than Windows. It kind of resembles Mac's desktop a little more closely. Now, I'm personally not a fan of GNOME myself. I have used Canonical's version of GNOME on Ubuntu back when I was using that. You know, that one's actually okay, but when it comes to vanilla GNOME, I can never wrap my head around it. I'm personally not big on it, but for those of you who do like it, perfectly valid option. It's not like it's objectively bad. The other big option is called KDE Plasma. I use KDE because it resembles Windows a little bit more, and I'm someone who was trained by Microsoft to enjoy the Microsoft-like experience. You know, that is until it wasn't. But the difference between KDE and GNOME isn't necessarily just the appearance. GNOME is kind of rigid in their ways, where you can't really do a whole lot to it. There are such things as GNOME extensions, which kind of slightly alter the way it works, but it's kind of like putting an aftermarket spoiler on a shitbox, where it's like, sure, it provides extra downforce, but you know, this really isn't the best analogy. Dismal. Whereas KDE is heavily customizable. You can do a whole lot of things to it. You can make it look different ways. You can make it behave in certain different ways. I use KDE Plasma as kind of, I keep it rather vanilla compared to some of the things I've seen people online do. And it doesn't even stop there. You know, those are only the two major desktop environments that I mentioned. There are so many, inconceivably large amount. There's Cinnamon as well. Cinnamon is actually lovely. I used it before. Cinnamon is a really good option, I feel. Then there's the more lightweight, old-fashioned ones like LXDE, XFCE, LXQT, because GNOME and especially KDE can be resource hogs at times. It really depends on how you have them set up. You can make those lightweight as well, but it takes a little bit of tinkering, whereas LXDE, XFCE, LXQT, lightweight out of the box. So if you really can't be asked fiddling with that shit, well, that stuff is really cool for that. I've used XFCE before. I wasn't that big on it. I couldn't get behind its design, but it definitely has a valid use case. It's extremely lightweight, which is what the main appeal of those old retro fashion desktop environments are for. You know, that's if you want to gaslight people to thinking you're running like a super retro PC, but then you're doing all this modern shit on it. There are a ton of them. There's also Pantheon, which kind of resembles Mac even more so than GNOME already does. Those are only desktop environments that I mentioned. There are also a thing called window managers. Window managers include things such as i3WM and Hyperland. Hyperland you've probably seen before if you've seen enough Linux stuff, where it's the super bleak taxor looking bullshit, and honestly i3WN does the same thing as well, but Hyperland is ultra customizable, and also I heard an absolute pain in the dick to set up. I just realized I had Steam open in the background the whole time. Whoops. Window managers are even more lightweight. They are extremely lightweight, where they take up literal kilobytes or maybe even just bytes in your resources. Obviously the downside of them is that they are a whole nother beast compared to desktop environments. They can be challenging to learn and attempt to master the use of, but it's extremely rewarding. I'm someone who fooled around with i3WM for a couple weeks, and by the time I figured out what I was doing, it was like, oh, you know, it's a cool novelty, but I'd rather just point and click at things rather than type in the names of apps in order to start them and relearn shortcuts. So I think that was the biggest obstacle for me, easily. And then, if you're fucking crazy, if you want people to be scared of you, you could just go without a desktop environment or window manager in general. There are people who use TTY, it's called, which is like, we've all seen it. It's that thing where your computer starts in a sort of ultra safe mode where it's literally just like type cursor on your screen, and then you type in what you want to do. There are people who actually play video games doing that. I remember watching a YouTube video of some guy doing that, and I was like, you're fucking insane, man. Honestly, you're absolutely insane. So, in a nutshell, Linux is extraordinarily, I cannot put enough emphasis on that word, it is extraordinarily customizable. You can make it look however you want, behave however the hell you want. Windows and Mac, you're kinda stuck. If you're someone who wants to make a computer behave how you expect it, there's countless options. There are honestly countless options. So this is KDE Plasma, my version of it. You get a taskbar down there. This thing up here that you're looking at, this is a design from GNOME that I actually copied. Personal fan of that. Over here is a system tray. You can see what's open. You also get that down here too. So, you know, you got the Firefox over here, which is my preferred browser of choice. You got Dolphin, which is the KDE equivalent of File Explorer from Windows. Got Jellyfin, which is my media player, Discord, Steam, etc. Now, KDE by default has a start menu that closely resembles Windows, but this is another design that I kind of picked up from GNOME, where I kind of like the system tray, they call it, and this is kind of somewhat equivalent to what it is. Anyway, you can actually do a fair bit with it. Think of it as like Windows, but with a bit more customizability available, especially if I was to have a look here and, you know, look at all this stuff you can do, right? Most of the options have Get New, which kind of just opens additional things that you can download, equipped to your desktop environment if you so choose. Now, when it comes to downloading apps or programs, you can do it just like Windows, where you download not necessarily a .exe, it depends on what distro you're running. There's actually two different things you can get that are considered universal. One is Flatpaks and the other one is app images. Now, I'll show you very quick how to get Flatpaks, which in most cases, Flatpaks work just fine for you. You can just, instead of browsing the internet, kind of has the equivalent of an app store. Only difference is, you know, everything's free here. So if you look up, I don't know, let's look up music player. Yeah, look, you have quite a few options to choose from. Now, app images are fantastic because you go on the internet, you download an app image file, and then the crazy thing about them is that you don't even install them. They're all self-contained within the app image file itself. So you can put it anywhere on your computer. Just for the sake of knowing where they all are, I made a folder called Additional Programs, and I have all my app images in here. Except for, you know, I don't really know what a .desktop is, but that works just the same. Now, if you're someone who wants to perfectly... Oh, look at that. Yeah, an update. Yeah, sure, why not, brother? So for those who want to save videos from YouTube for perfectly legal and definitely not piracy reasons, Open Video Downloader is bloody good. But don't you dare use it in that manner. Oh boy, that would be bad. Some people live and die by the terminal, where you just do everything through this, and I get it. If you know every command under the planet, you do things faster, not having to click and all that, but you can already see firsthand how lost I am with this bloody thing. You know, terminals, I'm not really a big fan of it, but at least you can do one cool thing on this that you can't do on Windows.
Here's a number 2. Look what I can do.
What? What does that have to do with anything?
No. He's got a point.
I feel like that's enough to give you a visual impression of what to expect if you use a Linux distribution with KDE Plasma installed. If we were to talk about other things in Linux that I actually enjoy, you know, to sound like a pretentious asshole, there's the hipster aspect of it. You get this undeserved feeling of superiority over everyone else because it's like you use something that not as many people use, which doesn't make you special at all, not by any means, but it's a human emotion that I imagine a lot of us feel on an occasional basis. You do get that here, and it's kind of true that a lot of us Linux people are absolutely insufferable about it when we start using it. I know for a fact that when I was thinking about swapping over to Linux, I just talked about it, you know, all the time, where it was like, you know, I've had enough of Windows. Watch me go be part of the penguin movement and shit like that. YouTube is full of people where you read the comments of Windows videos and stuff like that, and there's tons of people saying, I'm swapping to Linux, especially when support for Windows 10 was about to end. They were everywhere. And we have seen Linux growth since then, but a lot of it is just all talk. Otherwise, Linux would be like, you know, probably 50% Windows by now. A lot of them are like, the gamer type. You know what I mean? You know, yeah, I'm a gamer. Yeah, shove controls up my fucking ass while I get beaten in Dark Souls. This, you filthy casual. So, when I was talking about swapping over to Linux, I was using Linux on the laptop before I started using it on my desktop to play video games on. So, I was talking about Linux and I was like, oh, you know, it's really good, blah, 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 blah. And I definitely had this feeling where it was like, I had to tell myself to shut the fuck up, because sooner or later, I would have people just telling me, hey, dude, shut the hell up. We know. we get your deal.
Oh, have you guys considered swapping over to Linux yet? It's actually really good. You have to give it a chance.
Oh my god, do you ever fucking shut up, Clarence? I'd rather shit my hands and clap than hear you speak. Fuck.
For me, it wasn't necessarily a feeling better than everyone else thing. It was more so this is really good. Trust me, to the point where I had to catch myself from talking about it too much, because I do know that if I was a Windows user and people were talking to me about how much better Linux is and how I should use it, that's a complete turn off. You know, you don't want people to try something that they don't really want to try in the first place. Kind of something that you should naturally want to try yourself, which it was for me. I made my own decision and I'm glad I did. Another reason I like Linux as opposed to Windows is the feeling of solidarity. You know, you're as opposed to being a customer, it's more so a community-based effort. Now, you can choose to contribute to it. I'm someone who, I don't know anything about developing stuff, so I'm someone who doesn't contribute, but that being said, there are tons of people that you can talk to who use Linux or even the exact same distro as you, and you can converse with them about it. Any issues you run into, you can help each other out. And then there is privacy. Now, I'm not exactly a tinfoiler by any means, but I do value my privacy. It's kind of a relief knowing that Microsoft is no longer, that is except for the once in a blue moon time where I do boot up Windows 10 and play GTA or Call of Duty Modern Warfare, you know, the 2019 one, because that's a game that I like playing on occasion as well. Only when I play those two games, which these days isn't too often anymore. Windows obviously still collects my information during that period, but on my day-to-day life, where I go weeks without playing either of those two games now, it's obvious that they're not getting as much of my information anymore as they used to. It does feel good to be in that spot. I'm kind of at the point right now where I'm beginning to run out of outfits, so I've had to think a little bit outside of the box here. So try to forget that I look like a complete jack-off right now, alright? We're at the good part of the video now. We're going to talk about what we fucking hate about Linux, because there are some parts of it that I dislike. I've talked before about kernel level anti-cheat. If you're someone who cannot live without those certain games, it's going to be a serious obstacle. For me, Grand Theft Auto Online was the only kernel level anti-cheat game that I was not willing to leave behind. However, since I dual boot now, it's like, well, you know, may as well keep playing that, right? It doesn't hurt anyone, except myself. Hurts my feelings. Hurts my feelings really bad. Please. I don't know if you can see it in my eyes, but please help me. I'm going to talk right now about the first major issue that I ran into when installing Navarro Linux on my desktop. When I first installed it, it made it into the desktop. It looked pretty, it looked nice, it was functional. I got right away to opening up Steam. I have multiple SSDs on my computer, right? I have one that's dedicated to the Linux operating system, like all its system files. I have another one that's dedicated to Windows, like everything Windows, whether it's Windows games, system files, etc. And then I have a third one that is just for general storage. It's a big chunker of a 4 terabyte SSD. I fit videos, music, and games in there. So, with that big chunker of a drive, I wanted Steam to install games in there, but it wouldn't detect it. I was like, oh, okay, what gives here? I look it up, it turns out you have to mount any hard drives manually on Linux. So I was like, alright, well that's a bit of a pain in the dick, but whatever, I'll get to it. So there's a KDE Partition Manager, it's called. That's like a GUI version of mounting drives, choosing the file system for them, etc, yada yada yada. If you've ever had to install a new hard drive on Windows, it's a fairly straightforward process, right? On Linux, mounting it is a straightforward process, don't get me wrong. But I ran into this thing. Every time I'd have to restart my computer, I would have to manually mount that drive again. Otherwise, Steam would be like, oh, the game's not installed, man. What are you talking about? It's like, Outlast Trials? What's an Outlast Trials? You've never had that installed. What are you talking about? You're crazy, man. You're crazy. And for a long time, this wasn't an issue at all. You know, I think I did this for about a month, but doing something like that every single time you turn on your computer, it gets tiresome after a while. So after about a month of doing it, I was all like, you know, this is a bit of a pain in the ass now. It's lost its novelty. I got to do something about this. Now, I know this is not a mistake that I made on my part, right? But I could not make it mount at startup, no matter what. It just couldn't be done. One day, I turned on my computer and it didn't boot. It made it to the bootloader. I chose Linux, walked off to make my coffee or something like that. I come back, and it's just a black screen and said, oh, failed to boot because this drive was not detected. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I was immediately shitting myself because I was like, great, my computer's a paperweight now. So I restarted it, you know, held down the power button, turned it back on. I have no idea why, but it made it past it this time. It made it into the desktop environment. And I was like, okay, great. You know, now I have a chance of trying to fix this, you know, without being in this, like, anxiety attack or something like that that I sometimes get with computers dying, you know what I mean? So I open up Partition Manager, and I swear to fucking God, I have no idea why this was on. I have no idea why this was even a setting in the first place. But if I clicked on the games drive in Partition Manager, there was this box that ticked itself that said, it was something along the lines of, if it doesn't detect this drive, do not boot the system. And I was like, that's so fucking stupid. I did not click that. I would never in a million years click that. Who the fuck would want that? I legitimately cannot think of a use case where that would help anyone. So I went to click on the tick box to make it untick. It didn't untick. It just didn't. I tried so fucking hard and it just would not. So for quite a few days, I refused to turn off my computer. It might have been 3 or 4 days because it was like, there's no guarantee it'll boot into the desktop ever again. But I just got sick of it and I was like, I have to do something about this. I have to fix it. I have to face my fears. But a Google search did not yield me anything useful, except for, there was one thing, editing the etc. fstab file. If you don't know what that is, it is one of the most crucial files of your computer where you have to edit it. And if you fuck up, like if you do a typo anywhere, you will kill your computer. So I was like, okay, great. Well, you know, how do I do this? I had to open up the terminal. Yeah, I know, the dirty T word. I had to open up the terminal. In fact, I'll quickly show you it right now. Alright, so I had to type in a command. It was sudo nano. Nano is a text editing program for editing system files. And I had to do etc/fstab because that's like the directory of the file. And oh, look at that. Alright, I fucked up. Very good. etc/fstab. Right? Oh yeah, here we are. Did a typo already. So I had to find out the ID of the drive, which is a bit of pain in the ass, but I managed to do it. I can't even tell which one it is. Home swap. Oh, Mount Games. Here we are. Yeah, new partition. I just put it down underneath because if I did a typo in any of these other lines, it would have fucked everything. So I had to manually go into this scary looking file here, type in all this stuff. For any experienced Linux user, this is no problem at all. But for someone who had swapped over from Windows, this was the scariest fucking thing on the planet. But you had to save that.
Oh man, so I did it. I did the setting. It's all applied. I'm absolutely shitting myself right now, but it's time for me to find out whether or not it worked. So I'm going to shut... It feels like I'm smothering the pillow on this thing. I could be killing it. Shut down. If this doesn't work, I'm going to have to, like, probably reinstall the whole operating system because, I don't know my shit about anything, so let's turn it on. Not usually show shit on this monitor first if it wants to boot up or not. Come on, baby, do your job. Alright, there's a BIOS. That's good. There's the grub bootloader. That's good. Should be going into it. Error messages, that's normal. That was always there to begin with. Oh my god, hang on a second, this might have worked. Alright, well, tell you what, I don't care if it didn't work. At least it's booting now. At least it's fucking booting. I consider this a win, alright? This'll do, this is fine.
Sure enough, that fixed it. But there was this point in time, let's go back to this thing, yeah, hello. That was by far the scariest issue I've ever faced with my computer. It was fixed relatively quickly. Fix was rather straightforward and simple because I was careful about it, but I was shooting myself the whole time. It's entirely probable that if you were in the same predicament, you, Mr. Windows user, would likely shit yourself too. It'll be poo for everyone. Everyone will be pooing in fear. My next issue is, this is kind of something that's more self-inflicted than anything else, but I do know a lot of people share my sentiment here. This isn't a fault with Linux per se, this is a fault with GIMP. GIMP, which is the Linux image editing software, it's the most popular one. GIMP is fucking AIDS. GIMP has like such a weird, nonsensical goddamn UI that I swear to God, it's impossible to do anything on that. It can do everything that my preferred image editing software can do, but the layout is just so fucking weird, and the shortcuts are so fucking weird. It's like, guys, what are you doing? How much acid did you take before you decided to start developing this software? When I was a Windows user, my preferred image editing software was Paint.net. I was never a Photoshop guy. Paint.net was my thing to use. And that does work on Linux under Wine, but it's incredibly unstable. And on top of that, whenever I try to use text on it, it just shows up as like blocks instead of actual letters. I try to look it up and there's other people with the same issue, but sometimes you just get the occasional smartass that's like, just use GIMP, man. GIMP's good. Trust me, GIMP is really good. It could do everything. Oh my God. And it's like, hey, if GIMP is so good, why can't I edit PDN files, right? Riddle me this, Batman. I was in the middle of ranting, like complaining about GIMP, and this little dude showed up. Hey, Chunky. How are we? He came in and he's all like, yeah, fucking hate GIMP, man. GIMP sucks, it's stupid. I didn't even know you could image edit. Oh, my God. You're heavy. Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Show off your pink snooter. You're purring, but you look angry. What's the deal, mate? I have one simple... The fuck are you staring at? He wants pats. Hang on. So I have one simple proposition for GIMP. Make your program no longer the worst fucking thing on the planet, and I will personally eat Richard Stallman's toenails for him. What are you staring at? You want some too, do you? Who's a good moo-moo cow? You are, mate. You are. He's digging his claws into my kneecap. It fucking hurts. Oh, that hurts. Holy shit. Hang on. Alright, you've got yourself a timeout, big fella. Oh. Another problem that I ran into on Linux is that when you're using Windows, your computer will sometimes run into issues. As long as you stay the fuck out of that Microsoft support website where they give the worst answers on the planet, most problems that you face on Windows, the solution can't be found with a Google search. Now, there's no guarantee it will fix your problem, but at least there's a lot of help out there available. In most cases, you'll get it sorted, or at least find a workaround. On Linux, it's kind of different, because a lot of the distros are different from one another. You might use a different desktop environment than other people, so you can't follow everyone's instructions to the letter and expect it to fix your problem. There are a lot of variables. There are a lot of differences between different Linux distributions, versions, hardware, if you have a hardware related issue. So this is something that I'm incredibly ashamed to talk about, but sometimes I've used DeepSeek, generative AI, try and help me with any IT related issues I come across. And so far, it has managed to sort them all out, because sometimes I look up specific issues I've faced in that field that a Google search would fail to help me with. Was sometimes when I would update my computer, it will tell me that a certain plugin would fail. Now, I don't know why, but when one file or plugin or app or whatever fails to update on your computer, it stops the whole update. It doesn't just skip it, it stops the whole update. And I would look it up on Google and there was nothing. I was on my own with that. So I had to turn to fucking God help me. I had to turn to a Clanker, a Tinskin, Skynet, and I was like, hey, compile me a solution, which sure enough it did. It was turning off the plugin in some sort of setting or something, and I managed to get past that with the help of DeepSeek. And this is something that I really hate, because I really hate the rise of AI, how it's really fucking up the planet. Like, you thought oil companies were doing a great job. Oh boy, Sam Altman, the sister rapist, and Elon Musk, the fuck ugly nutty, were doing so much better at ruining everything for everyone. So crucify me if you want. I crucify myself plenty because I've had to turn to AI for help sometimes, but sometimes you just don't have a choice. Sometimes Google can't help you. Sometimes you can find a solution, but I'm gonna go on a quick rant here. Discord. Why the fuck do people use Discord as for support issues? It doesn't help anyone. No one wants to join a server to try and fix an issue that can be solved in about 20 minutes and then just leave the Discord server after that. It doesn't help anyone. Stop, I swear to God, stop fucking using Discord servers as a support hub for your shitty software, alright? Uphold a website or even just fucking Reddit, man. I hate Reddit, but at least Reddit doesn't require an account. So sometimes found solutions for IT related stuff on Reddit. Like I said, I'm not a fan of Reddit, but at least I don't have to make an account on that. So I just click on it, find my solution, go on with my happy day. But Discord, you have to go out of your way to join this server. Sometimes they throw all these rules in your face and they're like, oh, you have to manually read each and every single one of these and consent to the rules before we let you see any other text chat. And it's like, I swear to fucking Christ, man, Sky Daddy give me strength. And the best fucking part, nobody even reaches out to you when you actually make a post about it. Like, hello, I need help. SOS, fuck, I got my head above the waves right here. Somebody help me right now. And they just watch you drown. They're just like, oh, see you later, mate. Oh, I wish there was more we could have done. Like, literally acknowledge the existence of his post. And then this is an issue that I've run into before where my system wouldn't update yet again. And this is, I believe, specifically because of the distro that I chose, Nabara Linux. Nabara Linux's greatest weakness is that, as far as I'm aware, it's mostly maintained by one dude, Mr. Glorious Eggroll himself. The dude is an absolute mad dog, which coming from me is like the highest of compliments. That guy has completely changed the game for me when it comes to using a computer, and I will forever be appreciative of that. But this guy has a day job. There's only so many hours he can put towards maintaining a Nabara Linux at a time. So I'm really not sure why he chose to do this, but the perfectly fine updating program, he decided to change to a different one. He completely changed it, completely redesigned it. Attempting to update my system since then has been a real roll of the dice, real 50-50, where sometimes it just wouldn't work and I couldn't update my computer. Sometimes it would update, perfectly fine. Now, when it comes to failing to update, in this specific case, it's not the end of the world. This isn't something that I did. This is something where it's too quick to update, which makes me wonder why an update is out in the first place. But regardless, the solution is to wait a couple of days for things to be smoothed over and then you update. Small minor inconvenience, really not the end of the world in that whole thing, but it is something that I wouldn't say it's frustrating, but it's more so like it's enough to make you exhale a little bit. Go on with your day after that, wait a few days, attempt to update, it should work at that point. So it kind of has the unintended side effects now of updating your system is now an extreme sport.
When I was doing that update yesterday, I just realized the last thing it said was removing kernel. So now I'm like shitting myself. So I'm gonna have a live reaction, guys, of my computer possibly failing to boot. It lives! Woo!
And then there's the fact that certain games don't run. And I'm not talking about kernel level anti-cheat. A little while ago, there was a mate of mine playing Far Cry 5. I've played Far Cry 5 before. I used to play co-op with another mate of mine. I was like, oh shit, you play Far Cry 5. How about I join you in decent co-op? I made sure to look up on Steam and ProtonDB to make sure first. It has a gold rating, which means it should work. I swear to fucking God, no matter what I did, I tried tons of different Proton versions, tons of different methods, whether I was launching it through Steam or Lutris, which is a third-party launcher. I could not get Far Cry 5 to run. And this is a Uplay related issue, I believe, because it would launch Uplay, but then it wouldn't detect the game as installed. So if you click to download, nothing would happen. Sometimes with different Proton versions, it would recognize that the game is installed. So you press play instead of download. Nothing happens. I could not fucking get Far Cry 5 to run for the life of me. It's like as if everyone on ProtonDB is like, hey, let's gaslight this motherfucker like several years into the future. Because if you scroll through there, it is full of people saying, oh, it works, man. Just do this. I tried everything. And I could not get it to run no matter what. So I had to get in touch with this dude and I was like, hey, I'm sorry, man. I can't get this game running. Fuck this game. This game sucks.
Game sucks. Game sucks. Game sucks. Game sucks. Game sucks. Game sucks. Game sucks.
Game sucks.
And it's so odd because I managed to get another Ubisoft game, that being Assassin's Creed Origins, to run before. Far Cry 5, I swear to God, is actually impossible. It's literally impossible. They call it Far Cry because it's a far off dream and you will cry trying to get it run. 5. Don't let this discourage you at all though, because this is the only game that is supposedly Linux compatible that I could not get to run. This is after, you know, a year plus of playing dozens of different games, and they all work just fine. And I'm not an expert at all, not in the slightest, so I am fully willing, hell, not even willing, I'm fully expecting that it's a skill issue on my end. I'm the one who sucks. Game still sucks, but I also suck with it. And sometimes the Linux community can be bad people. I haven't run into anyone of the sorts, but sometimes you try to look for an issue that you've run into, like as in you try to look for a solution. Now, obviously this is a vocal minority. Most people are incredibly nice, incredibly chill, supportive, but sometimes you get dudes that just go, hey, ITFM man, read the fucking manual. Back in 1995, I had to learn how to do things myself. I think you should too. And it's like, you're not helping anyone. You're making yourself look like a colossal douchebag, and you're scaring newcomers off, and you're making the Linux community look like a bunch of dickheads. Like, hey, Captain Shitstick, well done. You know, I'm incredibly proud of you for that.
Anybody care what this guy thinks? No!
We're pretty much past the meat and potatoes of this whole segment now. You know, I've talked about the worst issues. There's one more thing that did happen to me, but this is like such a small consequence. I just figured, why not, man? Just include it anyway. And then we can kind of get to a conclusion, a real TLDR part of this video, because this is like 50 minutes long by now. Holy shit, this is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Of just some maniac ranting at his camera. There's a webcam right there. Hey, there's people on the other side of that thing. Hey, are you even listening to me right now? Are you even fucking listening to me? So here's something interesting that happened. I turn on the computer, it boots up, I log in, make it to the desktop. After about 2 seconds, it goes back here to like the login screen. And it's like, it's duplicated across both monitors, even on the inbuilt fucking case screen. It's fucking stupid. But I was partway through typing in my password, right? And then the fucking mouse doesn't move. Can you believe that? The joys of open source, man. I love this. But don't worry, you know, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's kind of like a inbuilt parental control thing. Even though I just came home, it was like you didn't spend enough time outside. Off the computer you go. I'm like, mate, I had an appointment to go to, even caught the train because my car was rooted. Nah, man, sorry, you ain't getting in today. You gotta restart the computer now. G'day, my friends. I don't know if you can hear me, but hello there. Hello. I've recorded something. Do you want to join in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, sure, man. Yeah, come on.
Beer?
Hey?
Are you drinking beer?
I was before. I'm not now.
Then I was just drinking beer before too.
What are you drinking?
I normally drink Carlton.
Carlton. I'm a Carlton Dry person. You see that? Yeah, I got a stockpile.
What are you doing, man?
Alright, so...
Are you recording?
If you don't want to be...
Yeah, no, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Walk off then.
Yeah.
Anyway, I initially tried to film something out here, and some dude passed by. I invited him to come talk to me as kind of a shit talker, like, hey, you know, come talk to us, brother. Imagine my surprise when he actually did. The reason I'm here is because I just came back from drinking out at a restaurant with some friends. So why not make the best of it, right? Just record myself out here. If you made it this far, you're at the conclusion part of the video. Do I like Linux? Will I go back to Windows? I'm going to try to keep it brief, alright? Will I go back to Windows? Absolutely not. I know that when I was talking about dislikes, I kind of ranted. Ranting is so much fun, but Linux is headache-free compared to Windows. Windows throws all these pop-ups in your face and all that. Linux does no such thing. So, you're interested in trying Linux? Take it from me, right? I'm going to give you a short list of distros that I think, number 1, you should try. Number 2, the maybe category. It really depends. Situations are kind of dictating. And then third is the don't do that. Distros I recommend. I use Bazite on my handheld. I know that I said before that I had a bad run-in with Bazite support, but the issue that I ran into was very specific to me. I'm going to prevent my feelings from getting in the way. I'm being as objective as possible. It runs games flawlessly without issue. Bazite is kind of what people call an immutable or atomic distro. Whatever the correct term is, maybe both are interchangeable, I don't know.
That's my homie, Mr. Right. Shut up.
The long story short is, even if your Bazite was to somehow brick itself, it will repair itself the next time you restart. It's magic. Bazite is heavily based, if not an exact clone, of SteamOS. That's why people talk about it sometimes. It's good. It's good. And you can install it on a handheld device like a Legion Go, ROG Ally, Steam Deck, etc. Or you can put it on a desktop computer or a laptop.
it doesn't matter. Another distro people talk about is Linux Mint. I've only used LNDE, which is kind of a slightly offshoot modified version of it. Linux Mint is a super user-friendly option. Linux Mint is kind of, if you want a computer that stays the fuck out of your way, Linux Mint is well known for being incredibly user-friendly. You will never have to use the terminal in Linux Mint. I can almost guarantee you that. Don't hold it against me, alright? Don't. Unless you want to, in which case go fuck yourself, brother. But anyway, Linux Mint I do recommend. If you don't care about this corporation versus individualism war, Ubuntu is a solid option. It was the very first distro I tried, and it gave me that confidence to dive into other distros. I don't use Ubuntu anymore. I replaced my laptop, replaced the Ubuntu installation with Debian. I'll get into Debian later on. Ubuntu is great because it's the most widely supported. If you look up any issues that you come up with, you will find a fix to it. That's why Ubuntu kind of has a lot of strengths, I feel like. People will carry on, oh, you know, it's not as good as it used to be. Look, man, if you're just diving into Linux, Ubuntu is a very solid option. Don't be too scared about it. You can always replace it with another distro. Another distro that has kind of had a lot of momentum about it that I saw on YouTube recently is called Zorin OS. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Zorin OS has a lot of strengths because a lot of people get drawn to it because yes, it is user-friendly. It is based on Ubuntu, so it has all that reputation standing behind it. Zorin OS uses a modified version of GNOME, I believe. Not GNOME, go fuck yourself, it's GNOME. That is specifically modified and designed to look like Windows as much as possible. So if the number one thing that scares you when it comes to Linux is the desktop environment design, I don't know, man, Zorin OS will provide you that Windows looking goodness. I think KDE Plasma does a better job, but that's my personal opinion. You know, look at me, I'm some crackhead talking to a camera in a car park. Anyway, when it comes to other ones, the maybe list, I use Nobara Linux. Nobara Linux has been extremely good for me. It has its quirks. Sometimes I'll run into an issue where it needs a few days to kind of pull its shit together. That's personally why it's in the maybe category. It's maintained by one guy, like I said. There's only so much work that one guy can put into it. That's why Nobara is in the maybe category, because if you're willing to put up with some of Nobara's quirks, Nobara is great. It performs extremely well. I do not regret Nobara one bit. The other distro that's in the maybe territory is, funnily enough, another distro that I use, and that is Debian. Debian I use on my server, which I mentioned before, and the laptop that I have that initially had Ubuntu on it, I since replaced it with Debian because it's more bare bones. Debian is great because Debian is kind of, you can choose every single package that goes into it. It's heavily modifiable. However, that being said, Debian kind of treats you where it assumes you know what you're doing. That's why it's kind of a little bit harder to use. If you want to dive into something a little more challenging but not impossible, Debian is great for that purpose. Debian isn't the best when it comes to gaming because they kind of are conservative with their updates, where they, you know, they wait like 2 years between updates. So Debian, as a result, you kind of suffer, I think, a slight setback in performance when it comes to video games, but in most cases, it will run games, it'll do everything. It's just a little more hands-on. That's why it's in the maybe territory. I think for my next computer, one of two things, whatever happens first. If either Nobara kills itself, or if I get another PC later on, another few years down the road, I'll probably go Debian. I feel like I'm ready for something a little more challenging.
Are you sure about that?
And then, category not 4, 3, I lost count. The distros you should absolutely 100% stay away from. These are the ones where if people recommend these to newcomers, they are shit posters, alright? Do not take these. These are not truthful at all. But there is Arch Linux. Arch Linux is a distro that has a lot of strengths. It is more or less the most customizable distro. You can control every aspect of it, but it is not for the faint of heart. I'm someone who hates the idea of an update brick in my computer and me having to fix it through the terminal. That's why I stay away from Arch. I don't use Arch, by the way. Arch is supposedly fantastic when it comes to video game performance, but like I said, man, it's hardcore. It's kind of for the neck-bearded Linux hardcore purists. Unless if you know Linux extremely well, I would personally urge you to stay away from Arch or any Arch-based distros. Definitely stay away from Manjaro, for sure. I've heard nothing but bad things about Manjaro. And then there are the other ones. There's Gentoo and there's Linux from scratch. They kind of follow a similar philosophy. They expect you to build everything yourself, even more so than Arch, if you can believe it. And they expect you to compile everything yourself. If you suffer a conflict of some sort, you're gonna have to fix that yourself. Make every package fit towards your distro yourself. You know, do everything yourself. Stay away from that. I've never tried it. I never will try it. No way. Linux from scratch and Gentoo is kind of a hobbyist distro where it's kind of fun, I imagine, to make a computer all by yourself, but if you're going to use it to do your work or play video games, don't do it, man. It's just not worth the trouble. And this last one that is in the I do not recommend category is unlike the others, because this is a rather user-friendly distro. It's had some drawbacks recently, and that is Pop OS. They're actually in the middle of working on their own desktop environment right now called Cosmic. Now, Cosmic will probably turn out very good when it's finished, but because all their priority is on the desktop environment, that has left the Pop OS distro itself in a less than stellar situation. Maybe in the near future, maybe a year from now, it'll be fantastic again, because it used to be a really good distro once upon a time that was recommended to newcomers, but I reckon nowadays stay away from Pop OS. Anyway, I had 4 beers. I'm feeling pretty sober now. I've been standing here for a good 2 hours or so, something like that. I'm still gonna wait longer. I'm just thought I'd make the most of my time, right, while I'm stuck here. This video was a lot longer than I initially thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be 40 minutes. I'm looking at well over an hour. I hope yous enjoyed me talking my head off. I like making it ask myself in public. That's why I'm talking to a camera in public while people walk past and drive past, etc. Anyway, I'm going to be your friendly neighborhood Linux user for the foreseeable future. I absolutely love it. Windows can go fuck itself. I will not be using Windows as my main operating system ever again. That will never happen. And I'm someone who doesn't know my computers at all. So if I'm in this position, I think you'll be in an even better position if you were to try it yourself and do it for a year, just like I have, yeah? Anyway, if you enjoyed this, give it a like. I waited until this late in the video, so consider that, please. And this is my first ever long video that I put a shitload of effort into, a lot of editing skills into it. I had to learn how to use Kden Live myself for this. If you want to see my ugly mug again on camera, while I cannot promise that I will have a regular schedule, rest assured, I do plan on putting more stuff up in the future. They may not be in this computer-related vein, but I do have a couple ideas rattling around in my head right now. Consider subscribing to my channel because, like I said, while I can't promise I will have a schedule, rest assured I do plan on putting more stuff up in the future. That'll be muchly appreciated. And there's one more thing. I don't want to sound like your typical jack-off who spends a lot of time on the internet, right? You've likely heard this from a lot of your terminally online friends. I'm someone who people have told should get into streaming, where it's kind of like I'm playing games and I talk a lot of smack. I have considered getting into that. If you are interested in hearing me talk my head off and making it ask myself on camera and being bad at video games, because make no mistake, I'm shocking at video games, right? Please express your interest in the comments, because even if I get as little as 10 people telling me they'll watch me on stream, hey man, I might just do it. I might just set up an account on one of those streaming websites and start doing it. I got my heart on my sleeve. You see my sleeve here? You see this? See this? It's an actual inked sleeve. I got my heart on my sleeve right now, man. Might even do music reviews, because I don't know if you can tell, I'm heavily into music. Anyway, look, brother, that was Sammy. I hope you had a lot of fun watching this. I had a lot of fun editing this. That's your local neighborhood Linux user checking out Sammy Ski Mask. Remember the name. All of yous look after yourself, all right? Peace out, brothers.
Damn god shit.